Good evening. I'm Lancaster. Most people think fire towers exist to watch forests, to spot smoke, to warn people before it's too late. But what if one tower was listening for something else? Tonight's story comes from a retired fire lookout in Western Virginia. He told me he'd never shared it publicly. After hearing it, I understand why. So, turn down the lights, get comfortable, and whatever you do, don't listen alone. For 36 years, I worked alone. My fire tower sat nearly 60 feet above the forest. Every morning, I climbed the stairs, checked the weather, watched for smoke, and every evening, I'd lock the radio, turn out the lights, and climb back down. It was peaceful until the last summer before I retired. The first call came just after midnight. Static. Then, a little girl's voice. Hello? Can anybody hear me? I grabbed the microphone. This is Black Pine Fire Tower. Do you have an emergency? Silence. Then, I think I'm lost. She sounded no older than 8. I asked her where she was. I don't know. I hear trees. I almost laughed. We're surrounded by trees. Then she whispered something that made my blood run cold. I can see your light. I stepped onto the observation deck. The forest stretched for miles. Nothing. No flashlights, no campfires, no movement, just darkness. The next morning, the sheriff checked every trail. Nothing. No missing child. No footprints. No reports. Everyone assumed someone had been using the wrong radio frequency. So did I. Until the following night. The radio came alive again. A man's voice this time, breathing hard. They're following me. Who's following you? I don't know. They don't run. They just keep walking. Then, his transmission cut off. Not with static, with silence. Absolute silence. The calls became nightly. Different voices, different ages. Always the same fear. I'm cold. I can't find the road. I've been walking for hours. Please answer. One elderly woman cried because she'd been hearing church bells for days. Another man kept asking where exit 61 was. One caller whispered, the house won't stop talking. I wrote every word down, every date, every time, every voice. The sheriff eventually confiscated my radio, sent it away for testing. Nothing was wrong with it. When they returned it, the calls continued. One afternoon, I drove into town. An older deputy was waiting outside the diner. He asked if we could talk. I didn't know his name. Didn't ask. Somehow, it didn't seem important. He listened while I described the voices. Never interrupted. When I finished, he asked one question. Have any of them asked you to come find them? I nodded. Almost every night, his face tightened. Don't. I laughed. You think they're real? He looked at me for a long time, then quietly said, I think they were. The next night, the little girl came back. I found a road. Good. Stay there. I can't. Why not? Because the road keeps moving. She started crying. I can still see your light. I looked out across the trees. Nothing. Then, far below the tower, I noticed something. A tiny light swinging slowly through the forest, like someone carrying a lantern. The radio crackled violently. The girl's voice changed. Not her words, her distance. Suddenly, she sounded right beside me. Don't let him leave. A heavy knock echoed beneath the tower. Then another. Metal stairs groaned. Someone was climbing. Slowly. One step. Then another. There should have been flashlight beams. Voices. Footsteps. Instead, there was only the steady sound of weight on steel. Closer. 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 I grabbed the spotlight, shined it down the staircase. No one. The stairs kept creaking anyway, as though invisible feet were climbing toward me. The radio exploded with voices. Dozens, maybe hundreds, talking over one another, crying, begging, whispering. Every missing person, every frightened voice, all at once. Then, they all stopped, except one, the little girl. Very quietly, she asked, "Did he make it?" Before I could answer, the tower door swung open. The older deputy stood there, breathing heavily, holding an old lantern. Its flame burned low. For the first time, he looked frightened. Turn the light off. What? The spotlight. Now. I obeyed. Darkness swallowed the forest. Instantly, the climbing stopped. The radio fell silent. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. Finally, I asked him, "Who was climbing?" He looked out into the trees. I don't know. It was the first time he'd admitted it. He took my notebook, flipped through every page, then stopped. There was one name circled in red. Emily Carter, age 8, missing, 1983. He stared at it for a long time, then quietly asked, "Did she say anything else?" I nodded. "She said she could see the tower." He closed the notebook, almost whispered to himself, "So can they." The next morning, state officials closed the Black Pine Fire Tower. Unsafe structure. That was the official reason. It was demolished 2 weeks later. The radio disappeared. So did my notebook. No one ever admitted taking either one. 3 months ago, I visited the clearing where the tower once stood. Only the concrete foundation remained. As I was leaving, My phone rang. Unknown number. When I answered, I heard only static. Then, a little girl's voice. Older now. Calmer. Almost relieved. She said, "Thank you." The line went dead. A week later, I received a letter with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper. One sentence. Typed. No signature. Some lights aren't meant to guide people home. So, if you ever find yourself deep in the woods and you see a lonely light high above the trees, don't assume it's there to help you. Because sometimes the light isn't watching the forest. Sometimes the forest is watching the light. Sleep well. I'll see you next time. After dark.